So I've been getting accused of being a Nintendo hater for the past few months because of the videos I've been posting recently, and yeah, I'm not going to deny that whatsoever. But while the tone of those videos have skewed rather negatively, that's not what the point of this channel is, at least not entirely. It's really supposed to be an outlet for me to talk about games with an emphasis on constructive feedback, but that was before Nintendo decided to speedrun burning all their goodwill, and it's just been interesting to talk about. Call me a grifter all you want, but I've been feeling this way about Nintendo as far back as 2021. And with the Switch 2 controversy, no. Industry-wide circus act, why wouldn't I post the thoughts that I've been sitting on for the better part of a decade when it's finally relevant? There's a level of ignorance and or complacency not to call out greed and corrupt practices when you see them, and it's borderline negligent when the corruption is so blatant and it comes with the added bonus of helping people to feel seen. I'm not changing my tune in response to the hate wave. I'm playing the same note that I always would, it's just that now's a relevant time to do so. And before we get started, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. I'm on the road to 5K and your support is greatly appreciated. So for context, the time we're living in now is one of moral ambiguity where the idea of good and evil is being challenged on a day-to-day basis. On the one hand, this allows for nuanced discussion, giving the benefit of the doubt to outwardly malicious people and extending empathy to those with opposing views. But this outlook is a double-edged sword because no one can really agree on anything, and considering what's been going on in the 2020s with how often people's trust has been so readily used and abused solely for profit, people seriously need to start drawing lines again. And those who have drawn a line believe in the following. Hating bad things is a good thing. Lying to people is bad. Cheating on your partner is bad. Hoarding food for yourself when others are starving is bad. Companies in the business of making and selling video games using their wealth to abuse the law is bad. And expressing your contempt for those bad things is a good thing. And what Nintendo's doing is an abuse of the law. Telling the judge to accept a patent you just made in order to retroactively incriminate someone is the legal equivalent of your sibling snitching on you for sticking your hand in the cookie jar, but plot twist, mom didn't say the cookie jar was off limits, but your sibling gets so bitter about it that they try to convince your mom that you should get in trouble anyway. Like, how petty can you be? Then on the gaming side, with the $70 price tag and severe drop-off in quality, the kinds of people telling you to just let people have fun are doing the digital equivalent of enabling Nintendo to set up bouncy castles in a graveyard and charge for admission. Like, yeah, you're not hurting anybody, but also they're putting a bouncy castle in a graveyard. And just so you don't think this is only about Nintendo, I don't think Sony and Microsoft are much better. Nintendo is not only putting bouncy castles in a graveyard and charging for admission, they're also suing other companies for simply selling bouncy castles while claiming to have invented the concept. Sony's hiking the price of the coffins to put in the graveyard, and Microsoft is buying the entire graveyard and looting the coffins. We also need to talk about how AAA publishers have absolutely fumbled this generation's price hike. Around 2020, there were murmurings from publishers of a concept so absurd, so entitled, so brazen, that even at the time, people were scoffing at the concept, but seeing how badly they failed to deliver should be studied. I am, of course, talking about quadruple A games. In case you didn't know, quadruple A is a label that publishers intended to place on themselves to distinguish games that supposedly go beyond AAA games in terms of budget, ambition, and production scale. I'm talking massive development teams, budgets exceeding hundreds of millions of dollars, longer development cycles, cutting-edge graphics, expansive worlds, and cinematic storytelling, which, okay, I already know sounds like a complete mess, but it gets even better because what I was most interested in was this quote from Yves Guillemot from Ubisoft about Skull and Bones. He remarks, quote, "It's a very big game, and we feel that people will see how vast and complete that game is." And before we get to that, we have the subtext of this quote implying that AAA games, by the CEO's own admission, coincidentally, or let's face it, deliberately, not offering a full experience even at the supposedly premium price of $60. And then there's the fact that this quote was about Skull and Bones, an overpriced, overproduced mobile game with a $70 price tag, complete with premium currency, rotating storefront, and shallow gameplay, failing to deliver on literally every promise made. Of course, this is one of the most egregious examples, but publishers have already spent the late 2010s reducing their games into overpriced con jobs and under-delivering for $60, and the reason why the con worked for so long is because of a sort of mutual complacency. Publishers were complacent in releasing half-finished games and charging $60 for them, and players were complacent in buying half-finished games for $60. But from the customer's perspective, just seeing that $69.99 staring you down when you know for a fact that what you're getting will be of the same quality or less than what you've received before is a feeling that won't be going away anytime soon. And publishers have demonstrated since 2020 that they have no intention on quelling those feelings either. 5 seconds was more than enough time for me to conclude that the price of AAA games has no bearing on its actual value, and 5 years has been more than enough time for me to confirm that the price of AAA games has no bearing on its actual value. The funny thing is that all the price hikes have really done is make people more price sensitive, wait for sales, destroy the hype cycle, and normalize boycotts. And to address the matter of cost briefly, engines like Unreal, Unity, and Roblox have done to the gaming industry what YouTube has done to video sharing. The barrier to entry is so absurdly low as to be virtually non-existent, and because I want to finally advance the conversation about the cost of games, we have to factor in how much publishers are saving on distribution costs compared to before. Do this. Take the cost of your last DoorDash order, Amazon package, or whatever shipment that you got delivered to you recently and multiply it by 1,000. Now take that same order and subtract the delivery fee, tip, labor cost, and other miscellaneous service fees and multiply that by 1,000. If you subtract the total without delivery cost from the total with the delivery cost, that should put into perspective just how much publishers are saving for every digital game sold compared to when physical retailers were the only method of distribution, and that's not even accounting for the much larger sales volume that the industry's seen since then. I don't want to hear that your production costs are too expensive whenever you're one of the only industries in human history that has almost entirely removed shipping costs from the equation, which alone puts gaming at an absolutely enormous advantage over other industries that actually have to transport their goods, and is more than enough reason why it shouldn't be affected by inflation. Nearly every other industry in the world could cease production and it wouldn't affect the gaming industry's ability to turn a profit. And we don't even need to speculate about whether that would be the case. Do you not remember what happened in 2020 when every other industry in the world ceased production and the gaming industry still turned a profit? Zero business using inflation as an excuse. It's already been proven to be immune to even the most dire of world conditions. And then you have the audacity to whine about production costs despite literally having your store set up in my house? Like what? Shut up. Unfortunately, I don't see AAA games going away anytime soon, nor do I see indies completely toppling the market. With these companies having the immense amount of wealth they do, they'll no doubt continue to sell games for $70, but they won't have the same overwhelming presence in the industry they had before. My current prediction is that AAA games are going the way of the cable TV industry, which got way too expensive, way too confusing, way too quickly, which led people to gravitate towards streaming services for a more direct way to access the content they want, and YouTube for lower budget yet more personable experiences. Granted, cable TV still exists, but it's a shell of its former self. The gaming industry's version of this is platforms like Game Pass, Steam, and Roblox, which are doing the exact same thing, down to Game Pass and Roblox being ruined by greed and poor moderation. If they keep this pricing model, I see them still being profitable because they'll continue to be supported by loyal fans and the general public, but they're never seeing 2020 numbers again because they're losing out on the hype cycle provided by the lower price point, which drove so many sales, and the outright contempt for the customer will ensure that many never come back. It's the classic step on a dollar to make a dime mentality. And with how prohibitively expensive and poorly engineered AAA games have become, publishers have lost the plot of how far people are willing to go to be a part of an exclusive club, overlooking the whole exclude part of exclusivity that makes them less money overall. Exclusivity is only as valuable as those who seek to be a part of it, and where AAA games used to be like a premium resort, over the years it's been quote-unquote streamlined into this newfangled room called the lavatory that's not a public restroom, we promise. Also, the toilet paper costs extra. Anyways, those are my thoughts on $70 games. I know it's a pretty controversial topic, even though with the examples I presented, it should really be an open and shut case, but I will tolerate, contrasting opinions in the comments below. But all snarkiness aside, I'm looking to advance the conversation beyond just blaming inflation, so if you enjoyed this video, then be sure to leave a like and subscribe to see the next post as soon as it goes live. Alright, take care.